Some wise words on geometry today. I'm going to hope that you get the point. We're going to line up and learn what we can about first few lessons in geometry. Here's our word: geometry, geometry. The word geo obviously has to do with earth, and the M-E-T-R, this has to do with measurement. So what we're looking at is angles and ways to measure the earth and things in the earth, which of course makes geometry fun. Now, first thing up, we need to learn what a line is. Not the line you get in at the theater. My friends call that a cube. What we're looking at is this kind of line. In geometry, a line is defined by, in geometry, a line is named by any 2 points on the line. So here we have point A and point B. Both of those are on the line. So what we can do then is call this line, line AB. And we designate that with the little line on the top, like it's wearing some sort of little flat hat that has points on both sides. Some of you couldn't wear that hat because you got pointy heads, but I think in this case, this looks great, doesn't it? Line AB, okay, and that's just defined by these 2 points. Now, give me something here, please. Tell me what you know about this. How would we name that line? Okay, hopefully you drew the little line above it and said line GH, and that's perfectly correct. Now, let me ask you one more question about this line. Is this line vertical or is this line horizontal? If you have trouble remembering that, you may want to speak with some of your classmates about a couple of little mnemonic tricks they learned this past fall. What about this line? This line here, what would we name this line? That's what I'd like to know. If you said line IJ and you drew the little line above the top, then that's perfectly correct. And then please tell me something about this line in terms of verticality or horizontalness. And once again, if you need help on that, see some of your buds in class. Now, what I want you to do is take a minute and come up with all the different names, pause the video, and see how many different names you can give this line. I believe there are 12 names, legitimate names for this line. And I'll let you go ahead and do that, and I'll be waiting here when you hit the play button. Okay, I'm still here. Glad you came back. One thing we can do here too is I've only shown you how to name these lines using the letter designation of the 2 points on the line and their letter designation. We can also give this line a name and use it instead. We could say, let's call it line L. And typically we do this in a lowercase cursive type handwriting or italics to indicate the line name. So we could call this line AB and use this method, or we could give it a letter designation and say this is line L. Now, what's next? Next up are segments. And here again, I hate to be corny, but we're not talking about those pieces of orange when you tear the segments apart. We're talking about a segment of a line. All right, and in this case, what we can see is that I have drawn this wrong. First thing up, I drew this wrong. Okay, the proper way to do this would be to have A, B, and then have the line over the top. That's a line segment. So now we would read this as line segment AB. And really what happens with a segment is a segment falls on a line, it falls between 2 points, and we can actually grab it and pull it down, and now you see this was part of this line, but it's actually a separate thing. It's a segment, it has endpoints, whereas the line just goes on forever and ever. The segment has 2 defined endpoints, and it also can be determined by the letter attachment to those endpoints. And just like with a line, we could use a cursive letter to assign a different name to this. Now, see how many segments you can find in this section. Put those in your notes, and we'll go over those in class when I see you next. So if you'll pause and do that, and when you hit play, I will be here ready to go. All right, next up is ray. I'm not talking about the marine animal, manta ray, or my buddy Ray Ray over at Franklinton High School. But a ray has an endpoint defined by a point, again, usually with a letter designation, and another point and at the other side of that point, the line just keeps going on and on. Okay? So we have one endpoint and one side that runs on infinitely. And we write that with our arrow in one direction over the letters, and we would call this ray ray ST. Now, you could also, again, designate a cursive lowercase alphabet letter as opposed to maybe a soup letter? I don't know. Anyway, next slide. All right, differences. Make sure you get this down. We want to make sure that everybody can talk coherently about the differences. Hint, hint, it may be a drawing problem. Line is infinite and never ends in either direction. Just keeps going. Segment has two endpoints, very defined, very limited. Ray has one endpoint and no end to the other side, which of course means it goes on infinitely in that direction. So here are our differences between a line, a segment, and a ray. Now, can you think of some common characteristics? Come on. Why don't you pause it and try to write down as many as you can come up with. All right, now that you've hit play again, let me tell you, other than how they're produced in terms of using a pencil or a pen or a graphic or something, I came up with one thing. They're all three named using 2 points. That's it. That's all I can come up with. Now, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and until I do, keep geometry in your mind, and tomorrow in class, be prepared to work, and I will see you there tomorrow.